who likes to read stuff that sucks, you know? So I guess this is, I keep saying I'm not gonna give spoilers. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ingrid and this is Ingrid Reads a Lot. As you may have noticed, I have not been here in quite some time. The reason for that is that I went on vacation. I was in Italy for about a week and a day. It was so fun. I had an amazing time, but I did not prepare accordingly with this YouTube thing. And then since I've been back, I just have been feeling super discombobulated with the whole time change and everything, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and film. But I'm here today and I want to do it because I have to talk to you guys about all the books that I read in August, which seems like such a long time ago, but we have to go through this because some of the books I want to talk about were amazing and some were not. If the lighting changes, it's because I'm filming this at the end of the day, so it might change. I do have a light here, blah blah blah, yada yada, YouTuber things, but I have this need to tell you guys. Okay, let me just start by saying that the month of August was like weird for me. I had some books in this that I thought I was gonna love and I ended up not loving, and that kind of put me in a little bit of a slump because who likes to read stuff that sucks, you know? But there were some really good books, so I definitely want to tell you guys about everything just so you know. But yeah. Alright, let's get started because I've been blabbing on for way too long. First up, we have Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, and this is one of the books that I was disappointed by. This has rave reviews everywhere you look, and this is a sci-fi literary fiction. I think I went into this with the wrong expectations because I expected this, here in my mouth, I expected this to be a lot more sci-fi than it actually was. The premises of this book is that there are different people in this story that sort of are all connected through time and space, and basically all these different perspectives correlate, and at the end of the book you figure out how they are related. There's like a time machine and all this stuff, so I thought that this was going to be a lot more sci-fi than it actually was, and this is more really about like the human experience, which a lot of sci-fi is. I guess it's a little bit of spoilers, so if you haven't read this and you're curious, then don't watch ahead. But there's this like time police in here because they have figured out how to travel through time. It is very sensitive, as most sci-fi puts it, and there's this whole government branch that is responsible for trying to find errors in this time loop, and you're following the perspective of one of those people, like what caused this error. I was expecting more. I think I just wish they had delved more into the science behind the science fiction of this book. I gave it a 2 stars because my star rating system at the end of the day is based on enjoyment, and I was not enjoying myself reading this book, and especially at the end when you get the big reveal. But I do get it, and I get why people love this. I think I just went into it with expectations that were not met, and at the end of the day, this is my rating system and I give whatever I want. But basically, I feel bad because I feel like I have to justify myself because so many people love this book, but I didn't. 2 stars. I think this author is very good at her craft, and I have heard that her books sort of all relate, and I love when worlds collide like that and you read one book and there's like a little bit of another book and stuff like that, but I will not keep going because I did not like this. So this is the first book I read this month, or the month of August, and it just kind of like set the stage, you know? And then next up, I read Under the Influence by Noelle Brooks. I will put a picture up. This is a fiction book. It's a literary fiction, and it's about a woman. Her name is Harper, and she starts working for an influencer that has sort of like a cult following behind her. She starts working for her, and it's an amazing opportunity. She gets to move to Nashville, but in the beginning she has a hard time kind of like buying into this whole like narrative because she goes into the office and people are like dancing first thing in the morning and all these crazy affirmations and hashtag girl boss and stuff like that. And that's what this book is about. The reason why I thoroughly enjoyed this book was because I'm not saying this is based on true stories because the author did not say that, but as I dove deeper into what this book was about, I did read that this author worked for someone like that. And if you dig into like, because I obviously I had to watch videos about this because I'm obsessed, but basically I think this author worked for Rachel Hollis. And if you don't know, Rachel Hollis is one of those like big YouTubers that back in the day had this whole like hashtag girl boss, and turns out she was just like taking money from people. It's almost like a pyramid scheme kind of thing. I know she isn't, but like the way that they sell this like version and vision to people in these books about marriage and things like that, it just goes like a complete, you know, like how are you qualified to give someone advice on marriages when you're not a licensed therapist? This book goes into that, and it goes into like her relationship with the person. Although this is fiction, I did feel like we got kind of like an insider look of what it actually was to work for someone like that, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It was extremely entertaining, and if you're into kind of that whole true crime, which I know no crimes were committed, but you know what I'm talking about, I think you would enjoy this because it is kind of like a personal insider look into how things were. So that one was very good. All right, and then I read The Last Word by Taylor Adams, and this is a mystery thriller, I believe. I'll put a picture up. I read this on audio because I got it as book of the month, and now book of the month is doing audiobooks. Anyway, I don't know why I'm giving all this explanation, but I did read this because it had a good premise. I guess this is more suspense than it is mystery thriller, because yeah, it is more suspenseful. But basically, this is about a woman that she's house sitting, so she's living in like a remote place, and she reads a horror book that she gives a horrible review to because it's a horrible book. And the author, and this kind of relates to this whole YouTube thing, I think that's why a lot of YouTubers are like reading this book and really enjoying it, but the author doesn't like her review and kind of gets like pushy and pushes back on her review, and then some weird things start happening at the house, and she feels like someone is there and looking for her. That's all I'm gonna say about this book. That is not a spoiler, but I went into this hoping for like a fun-filled suspense ride. In some parts it was, but this book had so many cliches of the genre that I wasn't sure if it was on purpose or if that's what the story was supposed to be. And it kind of got me out of the story because I kept reading and I kept being like, I cannot believe this is happening. Is this really happening? Is this real life right now? Because I understand satire, and when authors write satire, I did some research and I just can't figure out if this is satire or not, and I don't think it is. And I ended up not enjoying this. And I do read quite a bit of, you know, suspense, horror, thriller, whatever. And so I was hoping I was gonna like this because this other book, No Exit, a lot of people rave about. And so I figured that this was gonna be just as good. I do think that this is meant to be a lot more campy horror / suspense, but it just did not grip me. It did not grip me. And then it's like, it's one of those books that you like read and then you see other people's reviews and you think, did we read the same book? But I guess that's what reviews are, you know, like some people might really enjoy something and other people just don't get it, and I'm other people, you know, because I did not get it. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it wasn't anything like super specific. It was just so much of these horror tropes, and the reviews were just so not good. I don't know. That's how I'm gonna leave it. I keep seeing really good reviews about this on Goodreads, so I'm like, maybe I just didn't get it, you know? But yeah, that's where we're at with that book. This is where my slight slump started because I just could not fathom that I did not enjoy this book where so many people that I adore loved it. But alas. So after that, I decided I need a palate cleanser and something that brings me back to my reading roots, and what better way to do that than to read A Court of Thorns and Roses and annotate it, which I did read this with Roger, one of my friends. I will put his channel down below. He had never read this before, and we were like chatting, and he's like, I think I'm gonna read that. So I said, I'll read it with you. He sort of read it like super fast, which I get it. Like I read this book super fast the first time too, but I was annotating it, so I wanted to take it slow. I adore this. I don't know. I just do. And I know that has a lot of criticisms in regards to the fantasy part of this, but Feyre is just one of those characters that I really like, and I like her personal growth through this book. But it is a little bit weird reading this book knowing what you know happens in like subsequent books, And I did annotate a lot of stuff that is like things that you don't realize that are happening to set up things for the next books, which I think is so fun. I've reread this plenty of times, but I don't think I've ever actually reread it like paying like really close attention. So this time it was really fun. Did I tell you guys what I gave the other book, The Last Word? I gave it a 2.5 stars. This one is always a 4.5 because I adore this. But yes. All right, and then after that I read, what did I read? Dead Silence. Oh, I have it. I read Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, and this is a sci-fi horror book. And this is about a crew that is like scavenging. I think they are looking for stuff in space, and they're sort of sent to like the really ends of the world. Like basically they're scavenging in places that not a lot of people go to. They find this ship that in the beginning of space travel was supposed to be like one of the first ships of that size, and it was housing a bunch of celebrities and all this extravagance in this ship. And I guess the ship got lost and no one ever found anyone or the ship. And obviously this kind of relates back to Titanic, and they find the ship just kind of like floating into space, and they decide, let's go in there and scavenge what we can because we are going to make a pretty penny, because a lot of those things in the ship aren't normal day-to-day things anymore. So they do go in there, and they find that, I won't give any more spoilers, but they find that something horrible has happened on this ship. This whole time you're trying to figure out. So I guess this is, I keep saying I'm not going to give spoilers, but I guess this is a little bit of spoilers because I have to talk about this. So if you haven't read it, then don't keep watching and you are curious. But basically, the whole time you're trying to figure out if this is a scientific issue, right? If the horrible things that happen on the ship is like scientific, or if it's like paranormal. And I kind of don't like that, and a lot of times I don't know why, but this whole so there's a whole psychological element to this book. Our main character has, her entire life has seen and heard things that aren't there. Like she has gone through traumatic things when she was a child, and basically she sees her dead mother, and when they go on this ship they see dead people, literally just like the movie, and they're trying to figure out if it's real or if there's like a scientific reason for this, right? And the whole time like it's a psychological mind F, because you're just trying to figure out what's going on. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way that this explored the whole psychological issues that our main character had. I didn't like the fact that it was like wish-washy. You didn't know until, first of all, the beginning of this book, like nothing is scary. Nothing is scary until almost like halfway into this book, and I thought that kind of dragged a little bit. But aside from that, you just are with this main character and you don't know what's what. And sometimes I enjoy that and sometimes I don't. And again, I was hoping for more sci-fi, in which it really isn't too much sci-fi because it's just set in space. There's nothing crazy scientific like sci-fi-ish that happens in this. And it's not really horror either, because at the end of the book you find out that, I've already spoiled everything anyway, but at the end of the book you find out that it was man-made. Like the people that created this ship did this on purpose to kind of stir up issues on the ship. Not the people that created the ship, I'm sorry, an adversary company did this on purpose so that people wouldn't want to travel with this company anymore. But they didn't realize what they did was so bad that it led people to have psychotic breaks and go on a killing spree, because they didn't meant for it to be so bad. That's what happens, and I didn't enjoy this. And it wasn't scary. And when I read a horror, I want to be scared. So that was that. And I gave that book 2.5 stars. So again, this kind of led me down into a hole of slumpiness, because I'm like reading book after book after book where I'm like disappointed. So I finished off the month with something that I quite enjoyed. And that was My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This is a paranormal romance where our main character is looking for a house because she is desperate, and she finds a posting online of someone offering like a room in a really nice house for a really cheap price. And her friend is basically like, don't go into it. It's on Craigslist. Like, don't go there. You're going to get killed or something. And it turns out that the person that's renting the room is a vampire that has just awoken from a really long sleep, and he's not accustomed to living in the current times, and so he needs someone with him so to kind of explain what's going on and how he should behave. So our main character goes into his house and figures out that this guy's like really old-fashioned and he talks in a really old-fashioned way and stuff. It's just like a fun romance. Their like banter is really funny because he says things that she finds hilarious and he doesn't know why she's laughing at him. And yeah, and then something really quirky happens at the end where she has to save him, and it's just funny. And I really enjoyed this author's writing, so I hope she writes more things related in this world, because I just thought it was really fun and it was a good way to end the slumpy month, because I will tell you, I was not happy with the way that the month went. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Leave me your suggestions down in the comments to what I should read, because your girl is in a slump officially. Well, not officially, like this month of September, obviously I was on vacation at first, but then I did read some things, but I'm reading mostly romance, because it's those things that like you can, at least for me, I read without having to put a lot of effort into it. But yeah, I want to get back into reading some fantasy, so I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, I'm blabbering. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know. Leave me down in the comments if you've read any of these, if you liked any of them, and I will talk to you later. Goodbye.